and go places you would.
Like me getting to meet you.
Oh,
Awesome.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
Which is great. It really is special.
Oh, you're so funny.
You want the American dream. You want the life, the liberty, the happiness. But until you get there, until you achieve your goals and make your dreams come true, you know what you have. You have the journey, the hustle, the climb. I'm Kelsey Humphreys, and this is The Pursuit, where I interview the best of the best in person on their home turf about how they got started, how they got to where they are today, and what you can learn from them about success. Prepared to be inspired, equipped, motivated, encouraged, and have a lot of fun.
5, 4. Kelsey, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Pursuit. This time I was back in New York City to interview America's favorite weatherman. It was a little bit crazy because Hurricane Joaquin developed overnight, and we were on our way to the interview at Roker Studios, which is in Manhattan. But then we got the call that he wasn't going to be able to do it because of Hurricane Joaquin. So sad trombone. We actually went to the airport and we were about to leave and was super bummed. And then we heard back from them that they were going to be able to fit us in at 30 Rock. I know. So I got to go to 30 Rock and go to his office, which was so much cooler. I mean, I'm sure Roker Studios is cool too, but it was pretty cool to be in his NBC office filled with all of this memorabilia and fan mail. And apparently he really loves Batman. He was way funnier than I was expecting. Very laid back, very gracious with his time. But of course, it was so short, I didn't have time to facilitate a giveaway, or we didn't have time to play a game. But he did sing to me at one point. I know I really enjoyed spending my time with him, and I think you will love this interview with Al Roker. Al Roker is the host and weatherman of NBC's Today Show. In his 35-year-plus career, Roker, a 13-time Emmy winner, has conducted interviews with celebrities and newsmakers around the world and a wide variety of segments on every imaginable subject. He is also an accomplished television producer as CEO of Al Roker Entertainment Incorporated, a thriving multimedia company involved in the development and production of network cable and home video. The company recently launched its subsidiary, Roker Labs, a full post-production studio that assists in creating the live streaming experience with top talent by leveraging leading platforms such as Periscope, Facebook, and Meerkat. Roker is also a best-selling author with 9 acclaimed books to his credit, including his brand new release, The Storm of the Century, and is currently working on his 10th book with his wife, ABC News correspondent Deborah Roberts. I am here with the Al Roker in his office in 30 Rock, which I'm not going to lie, I'm geeking out. It's pretty cool to be here. Thank you so much for fitting us in the midst of Hurricane Joaquin.
Yes, we have not. Landfall is still a few days away, but it's a busy day.
Yeah.
But you know, it's why we do this.
Yes, and if there's weather, people want to see you.
Well,
so I understand.
I would rather see Dylan Dreyer, but that's another story.
Okay, well, for my guests, I like to start at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And so let's go back and let's talk about your career before today, because everyone kind of knows you from the Today Show. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about before that.
Well, I got a job. I started in television in 1974, a sophomore in college. My department chairman put me up for a weekend weather job in Syracuse, New York. I was going to school in SUNY Oswego, upstate New York, and I had taken a television performance class from him, and he said I had the perfect face for radio. So, but he still put me up for the job. I got it, and I was hired by a guy named Andy Brigham, the news director, who just passed away, and he gave me one of my best bits of advice, which was, no matter how hard you try, you can't chrome plate crap. So just remember that. Remember. I actually have that knitted on a pillow. It's not. But I got a job. I saw my junior year, I was the weekend weatherman. End of my junior year, I became the weekday weatherman. So I was driving Monday through Friday back and forth about 80 miles round trip, 60 miles round trip, give or take. And then about 6 months after I graduated, I got a job in Washington, D.C. That's where I met Willard Scott, who has become my mentor and second dad. Worked there for a couple of years. And then I got a job in Cleveland, Ohio. Worked in Cleveland at the NBC station for 5 years. And really the job move that changed my life. I'm from New York City, and I moved back to WNBC in New York to do weekend weather. Got the Monday through Friday job 6 months after that, and then started filling in for Willard. And in 1995, I started doing the Today Show full time when Willard decided to semi-retire.
Now, we had a question from a viewer. Jessica wanted to know if you always loved weather and you knew you would do weather, or if that just developed.
Yeah. No, I had no interest in doing weather whatsoever. I was going to be what your husband, Chris, is, like a producer and camera guy. I wasn't going to be on camera. And in fact, when I was working part-time as a weekend guy, I worked camera. I directed commercial sessions. I did whatever I could to put myself through school. I just thought I'd do this for a little while and then I'd get a real job. So no, I didn't. But I'd taken a couple of classes in meteorology, or one class in meteorology and one class in environmental science. Then it was called ecology. And Mercy Me, Marvin Gaye, for those of you. It sounded nothing like Marvin Gaye. Anyway, but the short answer is no, I had no plans to do this.
Okay. Now, do you have a moment in your career that you consider your big break?
I would say meeting Willard Scott, moving to Washington D.C. and meeting Willard Scott. He gave me the other two best bits of advice, which was never give up your day job. I mean, I do a lot of different things, but the weather is kind of my base. And the other one is be yourself, because at the end of the day, that's all you got. When they take everything else, they cannot take that away.
Now, a lot of people might get a break like that where they meet someone, who can help them, someone with influence, but they don't work their way to becoming one of the most recognizable men in America. So what do you think were the keys to your success throughout your career to get where you are today? What have you done that sealed the deal for you?
Who knows? I mean, it's like saying, do you like sausage?
Sure.
Sure, you love sausage, right? Everybody loves sausage. Even vegetarians love sausage. They just won't
it's pretty
admit
good.
it. But you don't want to see how sausage is made. When you really break it down, it's not pretty. And it's kind of the same thing. I don't know why anything happens. I mean, you try to be prepared for it, but I've got a lot of people I know who are a lot more talented than I am, and they didn't get the break I did. Some of it's being at the right place at the right time. But you just don't know. It's serendipity. It's I mean, for every Denzel Washington or Julia Roberts or Viola Davis, there are another 1,000 probably as talented people, but they just didn't get that break. So who knows?
Now, I think it's interesting you mentioned the industry. There's a lot of no's, and your Weather Channel show was recently canceled,
Yes.
just like this month.
Yes.
And so we had a question from Aurora, and she wanted to know, in such a tough industry, how do you keep bouncing back?
Well, the good news is I've got this other little part-time job called the Today Show. So, look, we had a great 6-year run. It was terrific. But the upside is, they're kind of moving more into digital. And they're launching a digital morning mobile show that will be downloaded to all the Weather Channel apps. And I'm going to be fronting that. So, I've transitioned from the traditional morning weather gig on the Weather Channel to what's probably going to be the future, which is digital. So, in a way, it's serendipity that it worked out that way.
Now, what's crazy about this industry, too, is the whole balance of work life. And
Yes.
I heard you told, I think it was Howard Stern, that you've only ever taken 2 weeks off out, which is crazy.
Well, no. I've taken, here's what I took. I took 2 weeks off when I got married, and that was 20 years ago. But about 3 years ago, by accident, I had taken a week. I'd taken July 4th week off, but then I think I put in for the next week. Anyway, so I had 2 weeks in a row off, and I did it, and I thought, this is fantastic. So now, every year, I take 2 weeks in July.
Oh, okay.
And
So now you've made it.
So
So do you believe
But
that,
I get other days off, but
Right.
I take 2 weeks in a row.
do you believe work-life balance is possible, or is it just work? I mean, what do you think of work?
I think it's more like work-life average. I mean, because sometimes you've got a lot of time with your family, your kids, your wife. Other times, because of their schedules, your schedule, it just doesn't work out. So you just try. If you average it out, you've got that time together. But at least in my career, and I think it's like this for a lot of people, it comes in spurts. You're just going. I mean, I remember my dad as a bus driver. There were like 2 or 3 week periods where he worked a lot of overtime. We didn't see a lot of it. And that kind of is the case here.
And your wife is also in the industry.
Yes, which is, I think, in the long run helpful. Because,
really? Well,
because even though the heart wants what it wants, and you want your spouse with you, and you understand a little bit more the demands of the career that the other person is experiencing, so that if they have to travel at the drop of a hat, you're not crazy about it, but you understand it. You know why they have to do it and what they're going through. And odds are it's not a picnic for them either.
Right. So do you feel like you've had to give up a lot for this successful career?
No, I don't think so. No. I'm not one of those people you'll see these actors and media people, No. Look, there are some sacrifices, if you will. I mean, certain amounts of privacy. Sometimes my kids will complain, and I understand, and it's valid. But I also say, look, guys, we also get to do some pretty amazing things, and get to see some pretty amazing things, and go some pretty amazing places. My middle girl just accompanied me to Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Do you have haters, and how do you deal with them?
Yeah, look, everybody's got haters. I don't care what job you're in. My dad was a bus driver. There were jealousies there, and then when we moved into management, there were issues. Everybody's got haters. I mean, unless they're your boss, it'd be difficult. I tend to ignore them or kind of mock them. I mean, people, say something really rude on Twitter, and I said, your parents have to really be proud of you. That's very special. That's a real communication skill you've got there.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So, again, privacy. A lot of, attention is drawn to stuff that's not probably, what's most important to you. And we had a viewer write in, her name is Whitney, and she had bariatric surgery as well. And she wanted to know if you were still on your diet and if you got frustrated with the fact that there was such a focus on that in your life when other things are so much more important. I mean, it's just your diet and your weight at the end of the day.
I guess, but look, that's how people see people. Look, we're a visual society. People look at you and they say a fat guy, and they go, well, if you just push back from the table, why you wouldn't have a problem. And it's obviously more than that, but it's one of those things where it's still a battle every day.
Really?
You're always working at it. I mean, you have to. It's the same thing any normal weight person does, but I'm always worried that fat guy's out there, waiting to come back.
Well, you look great now.
I don't think he will. I feel good,
Yeah.
and that's all great, but you've got to be vigilant because literally, I mean, I can gain 10 pounds in a week if I'm not careful. Just if I have a bad week, so you just kind of got to watch it every day.
Wow. Over your career, has there been anything really unexpected that you just were like, man, I did not expect this for myself?
Well, I think this whole career, it's like people will say, oh, the Today Show, that must be your dream job. No, I just never imagined doing this. So, no, it's all gravy. It's all a bonus.
So what's the absolute best part and absolute worst part of being in the news media broadcasting career, do you think?
Best part is, as I was saying, I think you get to do so many unbelievable things and meet people that you would never get a chance to meet, and go places you would...
Like me getting to meet you.
Oh,
awesome.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
Which is great. It really is special.
Oh, you're so funny.
But yeah, I mean, it's wow, what a blessing to be able to do this and see these things. And then the worst part, I don't know. There's bad parts to every job, but
yeah, that's true.
what are you gonna whine about?
I love that about you. You're just very like, this is awesome, and everything has bad. I've heard
Everything
you say
is
that.
awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of the scene. Everything is awesome.
He's still going. He's still going.
When you're living a dream.
So I'd like to know, walk us through what an average day is
There's
like.
no average day. I mean, I get up at 3 for Wake Up with Al, which after Friday I don't have to worry about. So I'll get up at 4, go through the weather stuff online and with my meteorologist. I've taken a shower, the whole 9 yards, walk the dog, and then head out, come to the Today Show, go through some more stuff, about weather, and then special effects or makeup, as we like to call it. And we start the show, do the show for 3 hours, and then we have a meeting afterwards where we go over the show and what's coming up for tomorrow and the rest of the week. And then I go to my production company, hang out there for a little bit, and I head home. Sometimes make dinner. 3 days a week I work out with a trainer, and sometimes you go out, sometimes you got something you got to do, like a charity event or something like that. It's a little different every day.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your production company. Why did you decide to, jump into producing and starting a company for yourself?
Well, I've always liked TV, and I always thought I'd be a producer. So I've always been interested in creating it. And started in '94 with a Food Network special, and just kind of blossomed out from there. And do shows for A&E and History Channel and Weather Channel and Animal Planet, and it's fun. It's a different creative outlet.
We had a viewer write in, Abby, and she wanted to know your advice for those who want to break into television.
On camera, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I would be try to be as curious as possible about everything. Find out everything. Read a lot, and not on the internet. Newspapers, magazines. Read. Pick up a book from a topic that you just aren't used to, and just read the New York Times bestseller list and go down the line and see something you might like and read it.
And now today, in this digital world, we're periscoping this interview. Do you think it's possible for people to break into, broadcasting and news media now without working their way up anchor to anchor to anchor to anchor?
Well, I know a lot of people do. The YouTube stars, and Periscope stars, and Vine stars. And some of them will have staying power, and a lot of them won't. And so that's why I think you really need to have a good base, which you only get doing local news and local broadcasting, and there are a lot of outlets for that now.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you could tell aspiring meteorologists out there, or weathermen, I should say, aspiring broadcasters who are maybe they're either at the very beginning or maybe they're really discouraged right now and they've had a million no's, what's your number one piece of advice for them?
I think it's still to be true to themselves, because eventually something's going to happen. It might not be what you want to happen. It might not be the job you think you want, but what's supposed to happen is going to happen.
Tell us about this, what's next for you with Roker Labs and Periscope and the tracking, because that's just super interesting to me. So tell us about that.
Well, we're looking at different the Periscope, Meerkat, Facebook mentions, the people who are trending on those platforms, the topics that are trending on those platforms, trying to give advertisers and programmers those metrics to look at those things. And we just like playing with these platforms, and because in a way it's kind of like television was in the 1930s and 40s. Well, really 50s, but I mean television started in the 30s. Who knows what the next big thing is going to be, but it's fun to play with.
So do you think Periscope might be it?
Could be Periscope, could be Meerkat, could be something we don't even know yet.
Awesome. I love how on the cutting edge you are. That's really cool that you're still pushing yourself and trying to learn new things. So I think that's really it for us. I know you've got to get back for
I do. Joaquin calls.
Here are my key takeaways on achieving success from my interview with Al Roker. Number 1, don't quit your day job. He said that even though he's got a production company and he does lots of different shows and lots of different things, he will never quit the weather, and that it's important to have a solid base of work no matter what. Number 2, be ready to work hard. Al wasn't even interested in the weather. That was just the opportunity that presented itself to him early in his career, and he just worked at it really hard and kept walking through doors that opened to him. He never takes more than 2 weeks off, and he didn't even do that until a few years ago, so clearly he works hard. Number 3, stay curious. I thought this was interesting because a lot of times in the entrepreneurship, achievement, success, business space, you'll hear that you should find one thing, one niche, and become an expert at it. But his advice to aspiring media personalities was to instead get curious about a lot of things and research and read a lot and be knowledgeable of a lot of different topics. Number 4, stay grateful. I think one of the reasons people love Al Roker is because he seems so approachable and down to earth, which he is. When I asked him about haters or about the downside of his job or about being in such a tough industry, he didn't have time for any of those types of complaints. He said, what do I have to complain about? It's all gravy, it's all a blessing, which is something we can all learn to be a little bit more grateful. And lastly, be true to yourself. He said that especially if you want a career in broadcasting or in the media industry, that it can be hard, that you might have to take a job you didn't necessarily want at the beginning. But he said what's important with all the twists and turns in your career is to know that you stayed true to yourself. I am Kelsey Humphreys here with Al Roker, and you have been watching The Pursuit.